Hey guys, Cass Nelson-Dooley here, author of Heal Your Oral Microbiome and integrative and functional medicine consultant. And you might have heard of yeast overgrowth, something that affects the gut. Usually books and videos are talking about this condition, yeast overgrowth. And today we're going to talk about how yeast overgrowth actually can affect the mouth too. We will be talking about the oral mycobiome. That means the fungi that live in the mouth, as opposed to the oral microbiome, which are all the bacteria that live in the mouth. And the oral microbiome, these fungi actually can play a big role in health and disease in the mouth, but we don't talk about them too much. So you've probably heard of thrush in the mouth. That is Candida, or a fungus that, really is a normal fungus for most people. Candida lives in the mouth, in the gut, on the skin. However, it can get out of balance and cause a lot of problems. Things like thrush. Candida can also contribute to cavities, which I'd love to talk about more in this video. And it can also, fungal overgrowth in the mouth can cause sores at the corners of the mouth and also a sore tongue. And I would imagine other problems in the mouth. Periodontal disease, the connection is not super solid yet, but it's probably plays a role as well. So Candida, let's talk about Candida and cavities. It is a major player. When was the last time your dentist told you if you had cavities that it might be due to Candida overgrowth in the mouth? Well, it plays a role. Actually, Candida works together with some of the most well-known cavity-causing bacteria like Streptococcus mutans. And they work together, they make the mouth really acidic. That works to kind of break down teeth. They create all this acid that damages teeth, and they crowd out all the good bacteria. So Candida is a culprit in cavities, especially early childhood caries. So if you have a child who has rampant cavities that are not resolving, I would really be looking into addressing yeast overgrowth or fungal overgrowth in the mouth as a root cause. There's not just Candida in the mouth, but it's the major one that can overgrow and cause problems for us. There's another dominant fungus that people either have Candida in the mouth or they have another fungus called Malassezia. And so either one of these is usually in charge, so to speak, of the microbiome. And I think we'll learn more in the future. The microbiome makes up a very small percentage, something like less than 1% of the total microbiome. And we really haven't studied fungus that much. We're much more interested in bacteria in the mouth. So I think there's more to learn. Candida can crowd out everything else and kind of take over. Malassezia tends to allow other fungus to grow, but especially allows inflammatory bacteria to live in the mouth with it. So neither of them are particularly grand to have in high levels. So, when you get a fungal overgrowth, there's usually some predisposing factors, some things that set you up for it. I mean, we all have fungus in and on our bodies. But when does it get out of control and run wild? That's what we need to be aware of. So risk factors are antibiotic use, also having a weakened immune system, steroid use, stress, and a sugary diet. Those are my big risk factors that I'm really focused on when people have fungal overgrowth. And you can learn a lot more in my blog on this topic, the oral microbiome, how the fungi in our mouths can help or hurt us. I have a lot more information there. But let's just dive into what you can do, because I think most people who are watching this video think they may have a fungal overgrowth or are working with a patient who they believe has fungal overgrowth affecting their mouth. And so I really come at this with my knowledge from integrative and functional medicine, because the idea of yeast overgrowth and gut dysbiosis is well understood in our field and treated all the time with fantastic results. So the number one thing we do when there is fungal overgrowth is an antifungal diet or an anti-Candida diet, and that means no sugar, no starch, no refined carbs, or extremely low levels. So that diet helps to starve out Candida and fungus, because that's what fungi like to eat. Also, there are specific foods that are high in fungus that when you eat them, they're going to increase your levels in the mouth and the gut. And those include beer, cheese, bread, corn, and nuts. So avoiding those, it helps an antifungal diet. Oral probiotics. If you have a fungal overgrowth or a yeast overgrowth, you need to be taking probiotics for the gut to crowd out fungi. Same with dental probiotics. If you've got oral thrush or cavities, I would say that a dental probiotic will help crowd out those bad fungi that might be contributing. And also we can test the mouth and the gut for fungus. This is a really great tool. Figure out, is it really an overgrowth? There's saliva testing for Candida. There is stool testing for Candida, Rhodotorula, Geotrichum, other fungi in the gut. And there's blood culture testing, which isn't really going to be relevant for our patient population. That's more relevant in a hospital population. Some people will test blood antibodies to figure out if there's a fungal problem. And there's also urine dearabinitol, which I think is a nice non-invasive test for fungal overgrowth in the gut. And one of the really neat hacks is that you can just brush your teeth more frequently. Brushing your teeth after every meal decreases fungus in the mouth and in the gut. So that's a really easy way to lower fungus. Lastly, I would say is to avoid antibiotics, right? Avoid unnecessary antibiotics. Hopefully if you're watching this, you already know that unnecessary antibiotics are very bad for the microbiome. They also increase your risk of fungal overgrowth. So really try to work with your practitioner to only prescribe those when it is 100% necessary and not when it's kind of like, well, maybe this will work, maybe this will help. Finally, with fungal overgrowth in the mouth, we have to also think about the bigger picture because often it's the whole body that is affected. The symptoms may just be showing up in the mouth, but the whole body can be involved. And so going on a comprehensive antifungal diet and taking these measures to treat fungal overgrowth or to treat the microbiome, both in the mouth and the gut, can be really helpful to getting you feeling better. It can help with those mouth symptoms like cavities and thrush and sores at the corners of the mouth and a sore tongue, but it can also help with things like constipation, diarrhea, chronic fatigue, brain fog. So these treatments can make a big difference in health, and we see it a lot in the integrative and functional medicine world. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.